Welcome to the Thomas Industry Update Podcast, actionable information for industry leaders.
Hi, I'm Cathy Ma.
I'm Sean Fitzgerald.
And I'm Tony Uphoff.
Welcome to the Thomas Industry Update Podcast. I'm Cathy Ma. Today we're excited to welcome Alison Elwell, who is the Senior Safety Manager at Rosendin, one of the largest employee-owned electrical contractors in the United States. So what does a typical day in your role as a Senior Safety Manager at Rosendin look like?
I'm a Senior Safety Manager with Rosendin. My district covers the East Coast Renewables groups. So anything I would say east of the Mississippi River is a pod of projects that's sprinkled from New York down to Texas. And we currently have about 5 projects going in that district where we have different job teams, boots on ground in those locations, and they're building various renewable energy projects, predominantly in the solar industry. So I oversee the project teams and the safety division on each one of those projects, kind of as a whole group.
Right. I love that you talked about your project when it comes to the solar energy plant that you're working on in Texas. I heard that it's actually the largest solar energy plant in Texas. Can you give us a bit more background and information around the project? Because it is super exciting. It sounds very innovative, and also it could be a great plus to the economy.
So it actually is the largest. It may be the largest at its completion date. I have no doubt that there will be projects that rival in size, in scale, in and around Texas. Obviously, there are some larger ones that are in the U.S. itself. But that project in its completion will span about 5 miles in one direction of solar glass, which is very impressive. And coming upon it, you know it's something big when you drive into that project. It's a pretty remarkable site.
And you're building it during a pandemic, and I hear that there has been huge disruption to supply chain and international shipping. Has it affected your production timeline at all?
Yes. So you actually brought up some really, really powerful things that do affect us in these pandemics. Shipping time, getting things out of state, out of country, the lead time, everything that has to go through its checks and balances in a normal time frame. And normal, I mean scheduled, what we're used to in the last 10, 20, 30 years is all changing because maybe there's not enough personnel to man those operations. Maybe, they're getting held up in the checks and balances, the quality or the shipping or the customs issues. There's all sorts of different things that will affect that. Not only that, but when you get down to the project itself, you're dealing with things from a state by state basis. Obviously, this pandemic it's affecting all of us. It's affecting us from, one corner of the globe to the other. And so that's the bigger picture. And then you zero down on what your state or what your county is doing particularly. And we're looking at, the people that are available to build such a massive project, who really can be hands-on at that point. That's obviously one of the most important parts of any job is who's actually building this. And I think that that's something that a lot of people overlook in the industry in general, is that we don't give quite enough credit to the fact that where you can do all of the planning and you can have all of the finances in the world to do something. But unless you actually have the people to hands-on build your project from the bottom to the top, you don't have anything at all.
And it's fascinating because you did mention about local employment and community investment. So obviously building a massive solar plant is a sustainable project, is good for our future. How do you see your company's involvement in sustainability, including, the project we just talked about, but also the investment you're making in your community then?
So this is a really fantastic project. Obviously, its scale is going to be remarkable to many different entities, both for its financial bringings as well as just the feat in itself. What we do as a company is we're able to create an employment opportunity for a lot of the surrounding electricians and union workers, at least with Rosendin, that serves that greater area. So we actually have quite a few people that travel all the way from Houston. So we're talking, about an hour and a half drive on average for most of our labor pool, that put their time and effort and heart into this project. But at the same time, I think at our greatest, we'll have between 500 and 550 people working simultaneously on this project, all while, there's a pandemic. So a lot of people are at a great job shortage. But with that being said, we also have to be expert planners to be able to open up our doors to those 500 people where we can work safe, where we can work in compliance with the CDC or the state government laws, down to the way that we do things and the way that we want to do things, from start to finish. And so, Rosendin is huge for the communities, for the surrounding areas. I know that this project will serve the greater area. But beyond that, this is a company that looks at, hey, how can we recycle this cardboard and how can we give back to the community and what kind of community events can we do? Okay, the holidays are coming up. What does the city of El Campo look like as far as a structure for children that have gifts available to them during the holiday pandemic time, something like that, and so I think through and through, there's a lot of really good culture and feel to what we're doing as a whole, with Rosendin and with our adjacent contractors.
That is lovely, Alison. And given your amazing background as a safety expert, how has the last year changed you and construction in terms of making sure that you're in compliance with fast-moving regulations and changing landscape, really?
Yeah, that's a great point. I love and adore your verbiage of safety expert, but I'm far from. I know that myself and all other safety professionals have gone through a really strugglesome time. We're in a time of wearing masks 100% of the time and ensuring that our people and our team out in the field is safe during a pandemic, during a time where, yes, we were deemed as an essential program from maybe the beginning of time during this pandemic, but also does that mean that we're safe to proceed as a whole? And so the change that has had to occur, whether it's limiting occupancy and shortening our hiring periods or affecting how hands-on we can be with our crews that are receiving the training to go be their own version of experts out in the field, is a hugely impactful thing. It's everything from, trying to get back in the routine. We're having issues with, clothing supply and issues with shipping and the fuel costs that are all over the map and people's home lives that are affected. And those are all things about building a project. I think from the outside in, when you look at construction projects, you see these things and you start to see structures built and you start to see the land change and you start to see, all of these different physical changes. But in that, there's a group of people behind that and they're experiencing things that are emotional and they're experiencing, heartache or heartbreak in the middle of this, and to get everyone on the same page, to make sure that everyone is safe, to make sure that everyone is available and present and trained and in the proper mindset to not only in one hand be struggling and dealing with and getting through a pandemic, but on the other side, serving their own personality or their own physical ability to build a project with us is a huge ask for anyone under the sun. And it's taken a whole lot of planning. It's taken a whole lot of conversation to be able to get where we are.
That is amazing. At Thomas, we always say the most successful companies are the companies that are engineered to work together, be it internally with their key departments or with external partners. In this journey, who do you think within your organization that you partner with to make all these changes possible and seamless?
So it's just as you described. We have a huge entity within Rosendin. There are so many different positions, everything from marketing and recruitment to, our skilled engineers or our buyers and our bidders. Everything from the project management standpoint to the person physically building the project, our trained workers, things and people like that, those structures that you mentioned. One of my favorite quotes by my division manager actually is, the field cannot survive without management, and management cannot survive without the field. And so just to let that resonate a little bit, I think that that's a direct reflection of what you guys do and look for as Thomas, but also who we are at Rosendin. We've employ, around 6,000 people. We're as strong as 10,000 at times. And in that, there's so many intricacies of what people are doing and how people are doing things to be able to proceed the way that we are proceeding. But it is a huge team mentality. With our traveling teams, we eat together, we stay together, we travel together, we know each other's in and outs. We do these breakout rooms where we learn about people's personalities and their core strengths and their weaknesses and what irritates them and things like that. And it's pretty impressive because it's all about communication at that point, and it's all about structure and putting your chess pieces where they both deserve to be and where they're strong to be. And I think that that's the best way to relate it, is that there's no strong or weak position with a well-performing and well-functioning company. It's just chess pieces. It's whose best foot forward belongs in which shoe that fits. And that's the kind of thing where, we give a lot of focus to at Rosendin. And that's why, my buy-in here has been so strong as I start to realize, that's just how things work here.
And Alison, what I love about your metaphor is chess playing. Now, switching our gear a little bit, if you think about your company putting together one of the largest solar plants in the world, it is not a project that you put together in days or weeks. It has to be something that someone has the vision a while back and getting the buy-in from all the stakeholders and making it happen. So now, in retrospect, in hindsight, everyone knows that renewable and sustainability are important, but you guys are kind of a step ahead of a lot of other people. So can you tell us a little bit more about where this increased focus of sustainability and sustainable energy came from, and how you think has changed the construction industry?
Absolutely. So I did go to a commodities-based education program. And so for me, that was something that started with me from a long time ago. And one thing that I was really passionate about, even though I may consider myself pro commodities, but I'm also very pro environment. We can create a sustainable earth as long as we do it the right way, or we clean it up properly and we go through the motion that way. So it's always about finding that perfect rhythm and that perfect balance of, what are we harvesting? What are we building? How are we polluting? But also, how are we balancing that for the environment? How are we balancing that for sustainability? To directly reflect on my own personal upbringing or education path to a company like Rosendin, to see a company capitalize on their ability as an electrical venture, usually as maybe a subcontractor to a general, they're doing a lot of this electrical work. And then we have this innovative, independent, feisty, and just overall awesome team. I mean, I'm talking about people that I look up to for their strengths and for how brilliant they are and for how wonderfully planned and spoken and just brave they are venture out into an industry, especially in this division that I'm currently in, these East Coast renewables. We hear so much about what's going on like in the deserts of California or Nevada, and not to discount or discredit anything that's going on there. Every project will have its challenges, and every team is very, very skilled and loyal to the practice and able to do that. However, East Coast Renewables is probably one of the newer and more challenging environments because there's so many different factors that that brings. And so to be a part of a group that has capitalized in that and has that strength and that will to just branch off and dive into something, into a place of the unknown, and then capitalize it and make it better and grow and amplify is incredibly empowering. It's energizing. It's fun. It certainly comes with its headaches and its stressors, but it's so cool to see people be able to find a rhythm out where the norm isn't just that.
What I love about your point, especially when it comes to growth and amplification, is that throughout this conversation with you, Alison, it's very clear that Rosendin is a thought leader and is ahead in terms of a lot of important initiatives. So apart from renewable energy, according to the US Bureau of Labor, women only made up about 10% of the construction workforce, but Rosendin's crew really stand out as they comprise of 30% of the total workforce. So what strategies do you think your company employed to create these sort of trend-setting initiatives?
And that's so awesome to hear just in hard words. I think it's been pretty standard that the industry has been made up of 10% women since at least the beginning of my career, which has been short in comparison to a lot of other women in construction that I personally know. With that being said, in the last 10 years, I've migrated toward a company that, like you said, had employed 30% of women in construction, which is hugely different. I mean, obviously, it's 3 times what I'm kind of quote unquote used to. It's a huge, huge deal, I think, for Rosendin. I think it's something that instead of looking for women and instead of going out and creating kind of an unnatural feel, whether it's the marketing and HR departments or it's the way that people just kind of live and coexist within Rosendin, it's certainly a comfortable place to be as a woman here with this particular company. It's been a really, really empowering journey to be part of this group. It's been a huge learning experience to be a part of construction as a whole. I mean, it's obviously made who I am as a person down to where we are today, but to be able to walk into an office and have it feel like there's a family dynamic going just because, you can look in one door and there's male and female presence everywhere around you. It's just that perfect balance. And it's that perfect, energy level where we're all bringing our own strengths to the table, where you almost don't even notice that that's what's so strong about us as a group made up of 30% women. And then to venture out into the field and to see so many women union electricians and so many women CWs that are coming up and showing off their skills and their abilities. And we're all working in one. And it's things beyond just the skill level out there. It's just the camaraderie and the respect and the way that things are done. It's that perfect rhythm and balance that I've been kind of trying to describe. out all the way to the field where you feel like you have a healthy place to reside, you have a home to go to, and it's not something where, you kind of have to grit your teeth, or you kind of have to come, with your elbows out or your fists up or anything like that. You just go to work, and you know that you can expect a healthy environment with this particular group.
And Alison, two themes that really emerged throughout our conversation when it comes to the strong aspects of Rosendin are culture and communication. It sounds like you guys have a very collaborative and positive culture where people communicate openly and directly, and also you communicate enough or sufficiently, so even people are traveling all the time, they're in the field, they still feel very belonged. How do you do that with a 6,000 to 10,000 people company?
It's always been a little bit interesting to be somebody who travels and somebody who calls home so many different places. By home, I mean the groups that you would call your family and friends as locals in the area, or the same group that you go to work with every day and you wave at the same person every morning when you go into the gates because, they're always there. You really have to grow an appreciation for home and what home is. They always say that home is where the heart is, or, home is where your family is, or something of that respect. And I just feel like I have so many homes, and for a company to be able to reflect on that and build that is really impressive. And to get to your point about how that's done, I think it does take a lot of work, but it can't be forced. It can't be fake. It has to be one of those naturally occurring, but yet very supportive ventures to where, you can drive into those gates, and whether it's just raining cats and dogs and there's mud everywhere, or it's the most beautiful day, you go to work with that group of people that you can rely on, and you work well with, and that you can be energized by, and you just can take out a deep breath and say, okay, I'm home. And yes, your day starts there, and it gets crazy, and your phone starts ringing, and things start happening, and you have to respond to different events and different people and different requests, and follow up with client asks, and all the things that we're all used to in almost any industry, depending on what our profession or line of expertise is. But at the same time, that you have a valuable job team with you and beside you. One thing that I think is a really positive advantage is being able to take people who we would consider locals out. And by no means is a 2-hour job commute somebody who's local to the job. I would never call it easy. However, we love to entertain the professionals of the area. It's really hard to plunge a bunch of people in from Montana to Texas and expect that they're going to know the way that the weather works, or the way that the best hurricane evacuation is, or the way that, the locals respond to heat stressors or anything like that. The insects or the snakes or the safety concerns, I'm talking about all of the things in my division, but we call upon everyone as a group to be the professional. And so I think just giving everyone a voice and everyone being able to be themselves, that's what's going to empower this family feel to where, you can travel and you can set up shop almost anywhere. And the greatest challenge and the greatest heartbreak is actually just experiencing, the goodbyes or the until next times, rather than, the pain and suffering of, oh, we're doing this again. Oh, we're in this other, division. Oh my gosh, it was so much better this last time because this was on our side. That's the kind of stuff that Rosendin is so great about leaving at the door. We get there, we call upon who knows best, and we just get it done. There's a lot of entrustment with that information, and Rosendin really values that.
And specific to creating that sort of safe environment for psychological comfort, the feeling of home, making people feel included no matter the background, the location, or the gender. What are the tips that you can give to other construction companies or manufacturing companies out there that are just wondering, okay, this sounds amazing. Where do I start? How do I create that environment for my employees?
So it really isn't all sunshine and rainbows. You call upon these things, and there's definitely things that work. But having been in this industry for some time, I know that I went to this company and all of a sudden I was plunged into these exercises where it was like, well, this is your team and we need to explore people's greatest strengths, and we need to, do all these extracurricular things to get people on the same page. And like I said from the beginning, we're a traveling job team that eats lunch together, that carpools together, that eats dinner together. I mean, we do cookouts and we hang out on the beach together, and all of those things are not work related. And no, it may not be your friendship group that you would choose if you had grown up in a city of 3 million and you felt like you had this large friendship base that was just so diverse that you could choose anybody you wanted. But you start to pick up from the strengths of people. And I think that a company like this, we don't focus so much on people's weaknesses or people's indifferences. Rosendin from the beginning has always focused on people's ability to be dynamic and to be so wonderful or so empowering or so smart or so skilled that you develop a genuine appreciation for your coworkers from the very beginning. I've always thought to myself, we have our own opinions where you sit down and, you're like, oh, wow, he's really grumpy, or, oh, she's just really opinionated and that kind of a thing. But with this company, you start to realize that grumpy person is actually the most skilled negotiator you've ever met in your life. And his dominance and his strength and his attitude are all part of this ability that you just want to be on your team. And then, that person that's so opinionated is actually somebody who is so defined by schedule or so defined by their ability to define like a legal program that they just blow you away with their mental capacity. And all of a sudden, your best friend is the grumpy guy and your best girlfriend is that opinionated female that you would probably never go hang out with in a public lunchroom. But I know that there's not a single person on my traveling team, as large as it is, that I don't think about as, a negative contribution. It's like we've been channeled to only adhere to the positive bringings of what makes our job team so strong in our industry, but also why you like them as a person.
That is inspirational and amazing and extremely relatable. We always can find certain colleagues with amazing personality quirks that on the surface make them hard to work with, but deep down they are extremely talented and have their own strengths. And I agree that having the ability to look past what you may disagree with on the surface and really focus on the strength, it is a very powerful tool. Now, this takes us to the next questions. Alison, as a leader at Rosendin, how do you or your peers at the company inspire innovation at your operation?
So we inspire innovation by just inviting what could be better. I've never really been so channeled with a group of people that says, okay, so that's the best case scenario. How can we get there? Or, okay, if that's the best case scenario, what would be the second best? Or what compromise could we give up to get there? I've often been with groups that say, well, this is the way that's tried and true, and this is the way that works. So, we're just going to do it that way. And I've often thought to myself, no, I know that this would work, or I know that in this particular situation, there's something better. There's got to be a better way. And out here with this company, I know that if I have a great idea and I bring it to the table, it's almost celebrated rather than, said, well, we already have a program in place for that, or we already have, the technology to be able to do things a certain way. I know that with this job, we have multiple patents going and growing from the field that are developed by people who are, as area managers down to the craft level that, says, look, like, this is really hard work. What if we tried something like this? And with those teams of innovators and in those teams of leaders and in those teams of people who are dreamers, they can come together and say, oh my gosh, like, you're absolutely right. There's better technology. There's better equipment. There's a better method. Even my training in college, I hope, would be a little bit more technologically advanced than maybe my mother's or my father's, even though they're still competent people in and valued people in the workforce. And so it's so great to see a bunch of brand new people out in the field begging questions and, presenting ideas that not only could work, but they actually do work. And then we have a group that invites that and says, let's do that. And furthermore, we have a senior leadership team that comes down with their marketing skills and said, that is such a cool, unique, new, awesome idea. We could patent this. And then you're associated with that. And that's forever. And that is just so cool. I mean, that's what makes people really just dream out there and move forward and be able to constantly innovate.
So, Alison, what advice would you give to others who are trying to create the same innovative and collaborative culture in an industrial business?
Every business starts small. It starts as a thought or as a dream or as a conversation. It's that, original two people at a bar having a drink together and talking about, the what ifs or these great ideas. And then that can grow. And the more buy-in and the more planning and the more education you have to put forth towards those ideas or those dreams, the more you grow this pool of success. And that can be in any division. I think to create something that Rosendin does really well is to put the focus back on the people. I hear so often that this is a company that its greatest value are the people. And instead of just kind of having that as an act or focusing on that as like a necessary part of mechanics inside of company operations, but to truly take ownership of that as a value, and to value your people as individuals, as who they are, is the first step in a successful culture, to try to grow or advance or to present new ideas. Again, I think that there's a lot of programs available that can help you develop your strengths as an individual and then help you collaborate among your team or your business. And that's something that can be so growing and so energizing to start to feel supportive in these new crazy ideas. Because I think one thing that's overlooked with a lot of small businesses or a lot of companies that are so used to operating in a narrower margin is that people may not feel empowered enough to talk about, not only the latest and greatest, but what's next and how can we get there? And it really does take a person or a group of people to take that leap of faith and say, like, hey, I have this idea and I think that this could work, without maybe that negative shadow of, personality conflict or individuality where you're not all on the same page, or maybe that person just isn't a strong enough businessman or businesswoman to create that buy-in. to where a lot of good ideas don't get realized. I think the greatest thing to take away from this is that there are so many wonderful ideas out there. And just because an idea fails or doesn't work doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that you have to come up with more ideas, or you have to come up with better ideas. And to be in a group setting to where that's realizable is going to be the only way that you can present something that's strong enough to carry as its own. I mean, I kid you not when I say the group that I work with is a group of people that were told that they were crazy, and to be told that it would never work, and to be told that the logistics were too difficult to survive, are now creating, one of the largest solar builds in the entire world. I mean, that is huge. This is a small town, small group of back pocket friends that had an idea, and it's just as simple as that.